The Orioles stink right now. And if they want that to change, there's going to have to be some changes made on this roster. We'll talk about what they could be coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb, and coming up on today's episode, we're going to recap another Orioles blowout loss as they were just punched in the face by the Minnesota Twins on Tuesday night. I'll tell you what went right, which was not much, what went wrong, which was everything, and a shout out from Saturday, I don't even know what day it is, from Tuesday's game. Then we'll talk about some impending moves the Orioles are going to have to make because Dean Kramer had his start day pushed back, so the Orioles need a starting pitcher for today. We'll talk about who that could be. And Jordan Westburg is going to be back soon. What move will the Orioles make to reinstate him to the roster, and why, with those couple of moves, the Orioles could make some sort of statement that maybe could move them back in the right direction. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast. But first, just did want to thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. We're free and available on all podcast listening platforms. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen, leave a 5-star rating and a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you're liking the show. And we're here on YouTube as well. And if you're watching here, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. And if you have some Orioles thoughts, want to talk ball, got a mailbag question, just need to vent about the O's, you can always email me, lockedOnOrioles@gmail.com. Let's start with another ugly loss for the Orioles. Full disclosure, I am recording before this game is over. It is currently 9-1 Twins in the bottom of the 8th inning. Basically, this game is over, but wanted to get a little bit of an early start. Either way, it is a loss for the Orioles that sends them to 13-21 on the season. So let's start with what went right from Tuesday's game. And really, what went right was Cade Povich in 5 of the 6 innings that he threw. Povich's final line in this game, 6 innings, 5 earned runs on 6 hits, 4 strikeouts, no walks, and a home run on 103 pitches for the Orioles left-hander. Now you look at that and you say, okay, it's nice that the pitcher gave you 6 innings, but to give up 5 earned runs doesn't give you a great chance to win the game. And obviously the Orioles did not win the game on Tuesday night. But the reason why I have this in the what went right is because all 5 of those runs came in the 3rd inning. 5 of the 6 hits came in the 3rd inning. That 3rd inning was an absolute disaster. Otherwise, Povich looked great. He started off good with a 1-2-3 inning. He gave up a little dribbler single in the 2nd, but erased it with a double play, put up a 0 in that inning, retired the first hitter in the 3rd, and then everything went downhill. A couple of bloopy-ish singles to put 1st and 2nd with 1 out, and then he just made bad pitches. He gave up an RBI double to Buxton, 2-run single to Jeffers, and a 2-run homer from Carlos Correa. And it was like immediately like that, it went from 0-0 to 5-0 in the bottom of the 3rd inning, and the Orioles once again were facing a gigantic deficit because of the failures of one of their starting pitchers. It has happened far too often in this disappointing 2025 season so far, and it happened again with Povich. But again, the reason why I put it in what went right is because that 3rd inning was a disaster, and he got ambushed by all these right-handed hitters in the Twins order, and it is one thing that Povich has struggled with in his young career, even in the minor leagues as well, is that he's really struggled limiting damage. He's had some issues with big innings where if things just start to unravel a little bit on him, he lets it unravel too much. And we saw it in some of his bad starts last year. It's happened a few times this year. It really happened in that 3rd inning. He kind of let it snowball, but otherwise he was good. After that 3rd inning, he gets the final out. He settles back in and he goes 12 up not 12 up. He goes 9 up and 9 down in his final 3 innings. Like, he looked good again. So if you take out the 3rd inning, he allowed 1 base runner. It was a little dribbler single down the 3rd baseline to lead off the 2nd. That was it from Carlos Correa. That was it that Povich gave up in those other 5 innings that he worked. If we can see that pitcher again, the O's could be in good shape when Cade Povich takes the hill. If we're going to see the guy who just let things unravel in the bottom of the third, well, then we have an issue. And despite the fact that, hey, it was good to see him bounce back through 3 really solid innings. I mean, he didn't walk anyone. His command was good. I was excited for that, especially in the 0 innings that he put up. Walks have certainly been an issue for Povich in his young career. He got at least 1 whiff on all 5 of his pitches. That was nice to see. He was locating well. He was going to that changeup, which had some good movement. He had good bite on the curveball. His fastball was pretty firm. Like I liked generally overall what I saw from Povich, but you know what? The Orioles have dug themselves such a big hole, and they're in such a bad place right now that even though overall I liked what I saw from Povich on Tuesday, you give up a 5-run inning, you're toast, and you lose another baseball game. And we are into May, and we're at the point where it barely matters that it overall looked good. He had a bad inning. He melted down in 1 inning, and that's where we're at. And I don't think it was enough to send Povich back to AAA. I don't think the Orioles can really afford that with how little starting pitching they have right now. And maybe Povich is a guy who, if the O's had more starters, he would be in AAA, just kind of resetting himself in the moment. But they can't do that because they have no starting pitching. So they send him out there. And again, if he looks like he did in every inning but the third, the O's are going to win some games with Cade Povich on the mound. Unfortunately, that 3rd inning happened, and here's where we are. Now, what went wrong on Tuesday seems to be a little bit longer of a list. I think we can all agree with that one. But the big one is the Orioles just decided they didn't really want to make contact with the baseball. A big part of hitting is making contact. And the Orioles, they've been bottom 5 this year in strikeout rate. It's gotten worse lately. Early in the season when they were struggling offensively, it wasn't really because of strikeouts. That's come on more in the past couple of weeks. Man, like, as I'm recording here, they're entering the top of the 9th. They've got 16 strikeouts already. That is their season high as an offense, striking out 16 times. There's still 3 more outs for the Twins to get. They could get some more Ks here. Most strikeouts since my wedding day. My anniversary is coming up. Since May 26th of last year against the White Sox, a game they won when Kyle Bradish took a no-hitter into the 7th. They also struck out 16 times against Chicago pitching in that one. They didn't win this one. They scored 1 run. They've got 3 hits right now. And it's just, you look up and down the lineup, so many guys with multiple strikeouts. And hey, like, Pablo Lopez started for the Twins. He is their ace. He is a legitimate ace. He's one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. There was a time this offseason when it was rumored that he might be available via trade. I was all over the Orioles trying to go and get Pablo Lopez, as I have been since the Marlins had him and they eventually dealt him to the Twins and were looking to trade him. Like, he is a great pitcher. So you know what? Not the most embarrassing thing in the world to strike out 11 times against Pablo Lopez. But he's also a guy who has his lowest strikeout rate this year since 2019. He hadn't struck out more than 6 batters in any start until Tuesday. And it's not like, because with all the strikeouts, they really ran Lopez's pitch count up. And it took him 98 pitches to get through 5 innings. So Pablo Lopez was done. The Twins went to the bullpen in the 6th. And the punch-outs didn't end. Our old friend Danny Coulombe struck out 2 Orioles in a scoreless 6th. That one certainly hurt a little bit. Speaking of hurt a little bit, as I just see the Carolina Hurricanes score in overtime to beat the Capitals. But that one hurt a little bit. You get 2 more strikeouts in the 7th inning against Louis Varland. Cole Sands strikes out a batter in the 8th. The O's just, they kept it up. And it's funny that, at least as I'm recording at the moment, Ryan Mountcastle is the only Oriole who did not strike out in this game. And he's been the one who's really struggling with this, which we'll talk about in a moment. But everybody else had at least 1 strikeout on their plate in this game. I mean, you get 3 from Mullins on an 0 for 4 day. He's now 1 for 17 in May. Cedric Mullins is starting to cool off, which is quite concerning for this team right now. They're not making contact with the baseball. Like, it's rough. It is rough. And generally when I recap games like this, I do the what went right and the what went wrong. And then a shout out to, I don't even have a shout out for this game. Like, maybe Ryan Mountcastle, he drove in the Orioles only run with an RBI double in the 4th inning. Like, Whippy, he's been pretty much terrible this year, which we'll talk about. It was nice to see him do that. Jackson Holiday had a single early on. nice. Kobe Mayo should have had a walk, but got punched out on a pitch out of the strike zone. It is tough to watch this baseball team right now. They are not good. It is not fun to watch them. They feel like they're getting worse at times here. And this was the start of the lighter stretch. Twins, Angels, Twins, Nationals. This was game one of that 12 game stretch where the Orioles needed to make up ground. It's just losing the first of 12 does not mean they're not going to turn it around and make up ground, but certainly not a good start to the stretch, which is by far their easiest of the season so far and could end up being their easiest of the season overall. Is just this entire month of May. Not a good start. And it's another loss for the Baltimore Orioles. Now, with these losses mounting, it feels like moves need to be made. And the moves being made are in the wrong direction. We're getting more injury updates. Dean Kramer is getting pushed back an extra day. So now the Orioles need a starter for today. So let's talk about who in the world will even start Wednesday night's game. That is coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Now, when I don't want to watch the Orioles anymore and I just want to enjoy a good snack, I turn to Wonderful Pistachios. Many people love the no shells variety. Perfect grab and go snack with some great flavors, but I like the classic. I like to open every shell for that satisfying crunch. The in-shell options, that's a classic favorite for me. So get snackin' and get crackin' with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. So as the Orioles lost again on Tuesday night, their third L in a row, we turn to the question of, okay, what is coming next? And they were dealt another blow, pitching-wise, really 2 of them on Tuesday. The first one is that Dean Kramer is being pushed back in his start. It's not 100% clear why. He was scheduled to start this Wednesday night game in Minnesota. He is now scheduled to start the Thursday day game. So it's not like he's skipping a start. It's a super pushback. It's 1 extra day. Gives him 6 days of rest that's terrible. 5 days of rest between his great start Friday night, 7 scoreless innings, and the Orioles' last win. That was against the Royals. And the talk has been that it may be because in the second inning of that start against Kansas City, he was drilled in the leg by a 103 mile per hour line drive, a play where he actually recovered to remarkably get the out and then stayed in the game and threw 7 scoreless, but might have been a big bruise, a welt, some soreness, making him a little tough to do what he wanted to do on the mound. So the O's are going to push him back a day. Now, as a result, theoretically, Sugano gets pushed from Thursday to Friday. Kyle Gibson gets pushed from Friday to Saturday. And then you would have Cade Povich on regular rest to start on Sunday after starting Tuesday night in Minnesota. But a lot could change there when the Orioles get to Anaheim this weekend. And we had been talking about how the Orioles needed a starter for Saturday. They had been going with a 4-man rotation for a little bit because of the off days. We figured that Zach Eflin coming off the IL could be an option for Saturday's start. Saturday is now covered. Now the issue is much more in front of them, and it is Wednesday. And the big bad part about that is that Zach Eflin made his first rehab start Sunday for Aberdeen. Now he says he's going to be ready after 1, but he is not ready for Wednesday after a Sunday rehab start. That is not enough rest. So Eflin is no longer an option right now. Trevor Rogers and Chase McDermott are pitching in rehab games, but they both pitch Saturday and Sunday. They are not options, I don't think, at least, to start this game on Wednesday. So here we are, staring in the face of what I thought going into Tuesday was 3 options for the Wednesday game. I thought number 1 was going to be Brandon Young. Now, Brandon Young last pitched Friday night in AAA, 6 innings of 2-run ball. He looked good. He'd be on regular rest to pitch Wednesday. Now, he was optioned to AAA back on April 28th, and the CBA rules say you have to stay in the minors for 15 days before coming back to the big leagues, unless you are replacing an injured player going on the IL. So Young technically wasn't going to be ready until May 11th. That's this Sunday to be eligible to be called back up. But Maybe the O's could have found an injury with one of their pitchers, a Cian Alvarez, a Charlie Morton, put him on the IL, brought up Young to start Wednesday's game. That seemed like it could have been a possibility. Then we get the news from the Orioles on Tuesday that Brandon Young is being placed on the 7-day minor league injured list with some shoulder discomfort. Now, it wasn't recommended he would go for testing. They're just saying to rest it for a couple of weeks and then come back and he should be okay. But it's another pitching injury to the depth that was only depth because of the other injuries, and now Brandon Young is injured too. And I said it on yesterday's episode. Who else could get injured? Turns out Brandon Young, after 2 big league starts and some solid starts in AAA, who was the Orioles' number 1 piece of depth in the minor leagues, he is now hurt too. So he's not an option. Number 2 would be a bullpen day. Maybe started by Keegan Aiken. You look for 2 or 3 innings. You used Perez, Bowman, and Soto on Tuesday night out of the bullpen. You had the off day Monday, so you have a fairly rested bullpen. You can go to a lot of Keegan Aiken. You can go to Brian Baker for multiple innings. You would use Charlie Morton for a couple of innings as well at some point. I mean, you could even theoretically, this would put you in a bad spot also, but send Cade Povich down on Wednesday and get yourself another fresh reliever to join for a bullpen day. That's possible. But the third option is the one that they're probably going to do. And this may already be official. Brandon Hyde may say it after the game. The game that just went final, it is a 9-1 win for the Twins over the Orioles. But it's going to be Charlie Morton. Like there's just, I don't think there's another option right now. It's going to be Charlie Morton. He pitched an inning in relief on Sunday through 24 pitches, gets Monday, Tuesday off. That would put him in a fine spot rest-wise to start Wednesday's game. It's obviously not ideal with how bad he's been, but he is a starting pitcher and he is on the roster and the Orioles need one. Now, he's actually somehow been worse with a lower K rate, a higher walk rate since being moved to the bullpen. And if there were literally anyone else, I'd be calling for them. But there's not. There's not. And you could say, oh, what about the Kyle Brinoviches and the Cameron Westons and, the list of those guys, the Thaddeus Wards who are in AAA. Couldn't they just go to them? It can't be worse. Well, if you're looking at the struggles that the top kind of pitching prospects, Brandon Young and Cade Povich are having in the big leagues this year, what tells you that a guy who's not really much of a pitching prospect anymore, like Kyle Brinovich or Thaddeus Ward or a guy like Cameron Weston, who has just gotten to AAA, what makes you think that's going to be better? If you just go by prospect pedigree, they would probably turn out worse. And at that point, you're getting close to the level that Charlie Morton's already giving you. So you might as well go with the veteran big league starter over those guys. That's the spot the Orioles are in with this rotation right now. It stinks, but that is the spot to go to Charlie Morton. Now, beyond Wednesday, hopefully Charlie Morton figures something out. I'm not counting on it. But beyond Wednesday, you're hoping that at least Zach Eflin is ready soon. Again, he started in Aberdeen on Sunday. He said if he felt good, he might only need 1 rehab start. So he could return early as Friday. That would be a huge boost. And my hope would be that when Zach Eflin comes back, you could finally DFA Charlie Morton, move on from there. Eflin slots in as your number 5 starter, and maybe a DFA of Charlie Morton, a veteran guy who signed to a 1-year, $15 million deal, to DFA him in May, even though he's been really, really bad, could be some sort of kick in the butt to this team. They'd be like, hey, your roster spot is not guaranteed. Even if you're making guaranteed money as a free agent, you're not guaranteed a spot. If you're not performing, you're gone. I think, A, he's terrible, but B, it could be a nice message to send to the team, like the first shakeup of the season with these things really going poorly could be a Morton DFA when Eflin comes back. And you need to go back to 5 starting pitchers. So doing something like optioning Cade Povich, who does have options, doesn't really solve that issue because you're replacing Povich with Eflin and you're still at 4 starters. You would still need to use Morton as a starter in that sense. And please no, please don't put Charlie Morton back into the rotation full time. If you're going to hold on to him, at least make him the mop-up man. So it's really either Morton as a starter or Morton gone. And let's please be Morton gone. But unfortunately, you know what they're probably going to do? Matt Bowman's been struggling a little bit lately. It's probably just going to be a Matt Bowman DFA when Zach Eflin comes back. You go back to a 5-man rotation. Morton stays in the bullpen. Povich stays in the rotation. And you go from there. Which, again, Bowman, I love Matt Bowman. He's been struggling a little bit. He had another bad outing on Tuesday night. Like, that's been rough to watch. But, that's the opening. Eflin seems to be the opening to jettison Charlie Morton off this team. And I don't know, but it feels like a move that could at least get some things stirring here. Update Ryan Mountcastle. As I said, he was the only one who didn't strike out. He did strike out in the 9th inning. Ding, ding, ding. That gives the Orioles 17 strikeouts in a game. The last time they did that was May 14th of 2023 when they struck out 17 times in a 4-0 loss to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. So we turn it over to that hitting side because while the starting pitching's been bad all year, the hitting is getting worse. They need a shakeup too, maybe just as bad as the rotation right now. So I've got an idea for one that could at least light a fire under some of these guys, and I'll talk about it to finish off the show coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for the extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. So for the Orioles, we have known they've needed a rotation shakeup for a while. Unfortunately, they're so injured that there's just nobody else to go to. The nice part on the offensive side is that although they are dealing with a good chunk of injuries right now, there are still pieces on this team, pieces in AAA, where you could make a move here to shake things up. And I think I have an idea here because speaking of roster moves and guys coming off the injured list, Jordan Westburg could be coming off soon. He is eligible to come off the injured list today from that hamstring issue. He was taking ground balls on the field before the game on Sunday, doing a little running. Hopefully the swing is looking okay. Now, it's not guaranteed that he will come off today, but it seems like at some point later this week, Westburg will be right back into the Orioles lineup. But it's not like Jordan Westburg was lighting the world on fire. He was dealing with a lot of injuries early in the season, but you'd rather have Jordan Westburg than not with this offense struggling so badly. And there has to be a corresponding move, right? Someone's got to get sent down or get DFA'd. And the easiest move would be just sending Kobe Mayo back down to AAA Norfolk. He's got options. He still doesn't have a hit yet since being recalled. He's looking bad with some of his strikeouts. And, Kobe's playing third base right now because both Westburg and Arias are on the injured list. But once you get Westburg back, he retakes his position as the everyday third baseman. If he needs to DH a little bit, you still would have a guy like Emmanuel Rivera on the roster to go over there. You still have another infielder in Jorge Mateo on the roster. Yeah, I know a couple of very exciting players on this team right now, but you wouldn't play Kobe every day. You can get him those everyday at-bats back down in AAA. Like, I would understand the argument to send Kobe back to AAA, but I'm here to say that it's time to give Kobe Mayo a chance to figure it out. There are two great times to let a young player figure it out. Number one is the rest of your offense is cooking. So if you put him out there every day and he struggles for a bit, it's fine. Think Gunnar Henderson early 2023, right? He was out there for 2 months, really struggling, but the rest of the offense was on fire. So they gave him time to figure it out. He did, and the rest was history. The other time is you're struggling so bad that it's time to play the young guys. And I'm not saying the O's are at that point yet. At May 7th, again, they're 8 games under 500. Still a lot of season left. I'm not throwing in the towel here, but nothing else is really working. And I know Kobe Mayo has looked really bad, and he still doesn't have a hit since he's been reinserted into the lineup, but a 131 WRC plus in AAA, 139 last year. The only big thing he has to work down there is his defense. I mean, he did make 2 errors at third base, getting the start over there on Tuesday night in Minnesota. So there's still some work to be done there, but I'm not saying that playing Kobe Mayo, keeping him even when Westburg comes back and playing him every day, my alternate move would be, you could DFA Emmanuel Rivera, but I'm not even saying that. It's not at the expense of Westberg. I'm putting Westberg right back at third base. I'm saying the playing time is at the expense of Ryan Mountcastle. Now, I know he did have the RBI double Tuesday. He did have 3 hard hit balls. That was certainly nice to see for Mountcastle, but basically he's not producing. The offense is struggling in general, especially against lefties. You have this top 10 hitting prospect in Coby Mayo who provides big power and should be able to mash lefties right at your fingertips. You should put Mayo at first base in that kind of platoon with Ryan O'Hearn and option Ryan Mountcastle down to AAA for a bit. That move, I think, even more than DFA of Charlie Morton, would send a message to that clubhouse like, we are willing to shake things up with how poorly this is going early this season. And Ryan Mountcastle, who's been basically an everyday part of your lineup, he's dipped in and out at different times, but a main part of this roster since 2020. I mean, almost the longest tenured Oriole in the big leagues right now is Ryan Mountcastle. To send, he does have options, so you can just send him to AAA. To send him to AAA Norfolk, I think would send a big message. And listen, coming into play Tuesday, he'd been terrible, and it was nice to see him get the RBI double, but that doesn't change how bad he's been. 202 average, 243 on base, 308 slugging. He's not doing anything. 25% strikeout rate, 4% walk rate. He's at 57 WRC plus coming to play Tuesday. A 30 WRC plus against lefties. He's not even hitting lefties. Like, what is going on with Ryan Mountcastle? And the underlying stats, some of them are good. Hard hit rate at 48%. That is great. Barrel rate at 16%. Those are both amazing numbers to have. But it's leading to zero production because he's whiffing all the time. He's chasing everything out of the zone. He's got a 50% swing and miss rate against breaking balls this year. That is absurdly bad. He's doing nothing for this team. Yes, he's still playing a really good defensive first base, but it's like, it's one of the easier positions on the diamond to play. So it's not giving them a whole lot of value right now. He's doing nothing at the plate. That's your opening. It's third base right now with Westberg and Arias both on the IL, but both of them should come back hopefully shortly and be guys that can produce in this lineup. The Mountcastle spot is the opening, right? You play every day against lefties. You play against not every righty, but a good chunk of righties. You split that time with Ryan O'Hearn over at first base. And defensively, I think we're seeing it. The long-term future for Coby Mayo defensively is first base. I mean, Mike Elias has even alluded to it in the offseason. I think that's the reality here. He's a guy who can play some third base for you down the line if you need it, but he's going to be mostly a first baseman and a DH. It's an easier position to play than third. Just make the move over there. Let him DH, let him play some first. You can take a lot of the defensive stuff off his mind rather than making these errors at third. You can just DH him. You can play a lot more Ryan O'Hearn at first base and just DH Coby Mayo. Let him just think about hitting. Maybe that clears things up for him. And you send Mountcastle down for a couple of weeks to reset himself, and you just go. And is it the best move for the team? I don't know. Coby Mayo isn't hitting either. It's a small sample size, but I think he deserves the chance with this team struggling to say, you know what? We have a top prospect who's mashing AAA. He's not getting any better as a hitter while he's down there because he's just, the competition's below him. He's shown that time and time again. Let's give him this runway to play some DH, play some first base, be in the lineup, 5 out of 6 games, 6 out of 7 games every week, and just try to figure it out. And if we go down the road a month and he still can't hit, well, then let's send him back to AAA and bring back up Mountcastle. But if we give him 3 weeks, we give him a month, and it starts to turn around, maybe Coby Mayo can fill that role, which should be his long-term if he works out of the player. Just give him a chance to see what he can do as a starter. And last year, I wasn't really for this because I was like, look, Mayo's struggling. Rivera's hitting. You've got these other options. You're going to the playoffs. Like, it was September. Let's pull it together for the postseason. Now I'm like, well, you got to try something. This has been horrendous to watch. And it's trickling down to the offense is getting worse and worse as the season goes on. A change has got to be made here. And I think the Mayo for Mountcastle swap, and again, not right now, but once Westberg comes off the IL, hopefully later this week, just do it. Just see what happens because the other stuff is not working. I'm not saying we're at throw stuff at the wall time, but we're getting closer to it. And I don't think Coby Mayo, top 10 prospect in baseball, is exactly throwing stuff at the wall, playing him over Ryan Mountcastle, who's doing literally nothing right now. It's time. This could be a move that shakes things up a little bit and tells that clubhouse, whoa, like we better get it into gear. And it may not work, but stuff's not working right now. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The Orioles are kind of doing that right now. I'm not, I know many people are, I'm not at the point of let's fire Brandon Hyde to shake it up. That might be coming down the stretch later this season. I'm not there yet, I'm here to make the first couple of moves. The Charlie Morton DFA, the Mountcastle to AAA, the Kobe Mayo to first base. Let's start to churn some things and see what we can do here. Because there's not much you can do on the pitching side. There's just no healthy starters. You are set with the guys you have. But on the hitting side, you have some options. You have some guys. You can make some moves. And I think that one, let me know in the comments here if you agree with the Mayo for Mountcastle thing. But I just think maybe that's the spark. Who knows what the spark is? But maybe that could be it. That'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully tonight's game goes better than Tuesday night's did. Man, an Orioles blowout loss. The Capitals losing overtime in game one. Let's get some better sports going on Wednesday. It is a 7:40 p.m. start. Simeon Woods Richardson, the 24-year-old right-hander, goes for Minnesota. He's been okay. He's got a 4.03 ERA this year, 2 runs over 4 2/3 innings with 5 walks in his last start against Cleveland. Let's see if the O's can get to him. He's kind of the number 5 starter in that Minnesota rotation right now. This is their guy to jump on. Of course, it is TBD for the Orioles. Let's do one last check here. This is great podcasting here. Let me see if Brandon Hyde has spoken to the media yet, timing-wise, as I'm recording here. He may not have. But let's see. There it is. Wow, look at that timing. 57 seconds ago from Andy Koska of the Baltimore Banner, which congrats to them for that publication winning a Pulitzer Prize this week. But Charlie Morton officially will start for the Orioles on Wednesday. So welcome back to the Charlie Morton starting experience, because guess what? There's nobody else they can turn to at this point. So Charlie Morton starts. Let's hope it's gone better than literally every other time. But either way, I'll be back with you on Thursday to recap everything you need to know from Game 2 between the Orioles and the Twins. Until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.